what it is you strayed from the path of the Creator. And when you do that and you start doing things you know that are not appropriate and not in keeping with the Creator, you can get cursed with a curse. And it would be, as I guess what people would say, would be werewolves. In my family, we call them googaroos, which if you look at the history through Native people, we wouldn't have had a word for that. We would have to try to figure out what that would be. And when the French people came over, and possibly with their stories and sharing back and forth, le googaroo, that would probably be how we would come up with googaroo to explain what they were. I mean, before that, people could mistake them as what? Spirit walkers? People who can change spiritually or take on a spiritual guise of an animal, or even bear walkers. Where we are in Canada, the term here, what we don't like to be called, is bear walkers. I mean, it's pretty close to what a werewolf would be.
But would they have the physiological traits of a bear as opposed to a wolf?
I would say, well, from what my uncle says, not necessarily taking on the full physicality of a bear, but you would become bigger, powerful, stronger. But from my aunt, who actually practices, I guess it would be the healing side of, native medicine, she'd say that, no, it's more a mentality that you would kind of evoke something to come into you when you are a bear walker or a spirit walker. So you're calling in a spirit, not necessarily taking on a form of an animal, but calling in a spirit, which may or may not actually be a spirit animal. It could be any type of spirit.
Sort of a form of possession.
Yeah, that's what she explains it more. But my uncle, on my mother's side, tells me the story. I remember I was 16, and my mother never really talked about my birth dad, just wouldn't. So I got clear the understanding that she loathed my dad. When I was 16, I asked him. I wanted to know about, who my father was and why she won't talk to me. I'll ask her questions, and she would just act like she didn't even hear me. And my uncle finally told me. He goes, when we were camping, he's like, two of our friends, your dad and your mother, we went out camping in the bushes, doing some fishing. And he goes, and we were drinking, and he goes, and that's all we did. But this night, your dad was starting to creep us out with stories, and he wouldn't tell me what the stories were. But basically, my dad was boasting about the knowledge he had and the things that he could do, which my uncle and the friends were just kind of laughing it off and telling him, oh, whatever, you're full of it and you're full of yourself and, hurry up and pass out or whatever. And he said, and then a weird thing happened, and he's like, I got sober pretty quick. Your dad stood up, and when he stood up, he's very tall to begin with. He's 6 foot. And he's like, but when he stood up and he put out his arms and expanded his chest and he went down to, scream, he's like, he appeared to look like he was getting bigger. He's like, not by much, maybe a foot or so. He's like, but it freaked us out. We all stopped. He had our attention. His face, the muscles on it, contorted and changed where he couldn't recognize my dad. And that's all he would say. His face changed. And he really snarled a lot and bore his teeth and, was kind of lashing at the air at them. And they were so scared and terrified, they just sat there. And he went into the tent to my mother. And my mother, he woke her up and she was screaming, get him off of me. I don't want him in here. Get him off and what's going on and whatever. And so the men got up, realizing my mom was in danger, went in, and the three of them said that they had a hard time. The strength that he had And he said, I've fought people who were under the influence of drugs, who drank before, or, people who were just sober and who were big men. And he's like, but the strength of your dad that night, he's like, I don't know how to explain it other than maybe he knew what he was talking about. But the three of them had a hard time wrestling him, taking him out of the tent, and they knew that they were going to grow tired if they had to keep fighting him the whole night. So they somehow were able to get the rope that they had with them and bind him to a tree. And they stayed watch over him the whole night. And they said as soon as the sun came and the sun hit him, he relaxed. He basically passed out or fell asleep or whatever, and he was himself again. But his uncle said, sorry?
Was this on the night of a full moon, which is the key to transforming a man into a wolf, or was this an ordinary night?
See, now I don't know, because I was born on a Tuesday in 1972, August. So my uncle believes I was conceived that night. So that would be 9 months from August 15th, 1972. So if you want to look up and see, which I was actually trying to do, to see if there was something to it, because with all of these histories and different cultures and different belief systems, there has to be a root where it comes from, and that kernel of truth. There's just so many. It's so widespread. I mean, even in Native belief, away from old world, before the Europeans came over, we had this belief too. So it's got to stem from somewhere.
Absolutely. Another quick question. You mentioned that in Native belief, where there's so many different tribes, which tribe are you referring to?
On my dad's side, I don't think he's Cree, but my mother's Cree. And we're the band Whitefish. We're the northern, but we don't, if the Cree have their belief system, but I think it's more my dad's side. He says he's more Cree than anything, but my aunt says that not necessarily, that's not exactly where we sprung from. Because in our native retellings, when we do our powwows and we sing our songs, we have a history through my dad's side that we actually helped the Nordic people, the Norse people, when they came over. And the event happened there that they fled from the coast into the plains. So they were hiding.
The Vikings from the
Yes.
Norsemen?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So, and that's the thing that I love about my aunt, because she's the one who's designated the keeper of the stories of our family on my dad's side. And she has even said that my dad and what he went through. So when my sister, I have an older sister by 10 years, I went to her and asked her, I've been hearing these stories. This is what what our Uncle Rainey told me. And so I told her, and she confirmed, yes, our aunt, the one who holds the stories and the history of our people, has told us that through our dad's line, either my sister or me is supposed to be the next one to take up the keeper of the stories and the histories. And I'm like, I don't know if that's really something I want to do. I mean, because with it comes a lot of stuff that maybe knowledge that I don't think I want to know. But they helped them and could explain why on my dad's side of the family, we're actually a very pale race of Native Americans. Because a lot of people ask me why I'm very pale. And all I can say is that I have European ancestry, so it's in there.
Okay, so I'm
not very dark for Cree.
You might have Viking ancestors in your lineage.
I know that I do. If that's the tales, and even historically now, as man catches up to fortify or to authenticate our tribe's telling of the histories, yes, that would be the case.
This. After this incident, is that when your parents separated, or was it sometime?
Yes.
So as far as you know, this is the only time that your uncle and your mother witnessed this transformation of your father?
Yes. Yes. But my aunt tells me... Sorry?
I was going to ask if you've had any sort of manifestations of a similar nature.
Well,
Come on.
I have no, I haven't. Not in that sense. I thought it was more that I could possibly be a berserker, because there's times where under great stress, and if I feel that myself or anyone that I love or care for is in danger, I'll have a blackout episode. And so when I come out from a blackout episode and I come back consciously to who I know I am, I've done violence that I didn't think I was capable of. And that was only 3 times in my life. And because of that, I'm not happy about it. I don't like it. I try my best to not put myself in situations where I lose accountability, I guess I would say.
Well, the berserkers were the warriors who were almost invincible.
Yeah, which is in keeping when you
your...
look at, indestructible people in genetics.
How long did these blackout periods last for, or do you know?
The one that my one foster mother, I was raised by Mormon foster parents, and so with her, she heard the whole thing coming down, and I kept saying, please don't bother me, not right now. Like, I don't want to lose my temper. I just need time, back away. And it was another foster sister who was trying to fight with me. She wanted to have a fight, and I don't like to be a very violent person. I know when confronted, I can be a very physical person, so I was like, no, like, just leave me alone, let me calm down, we'll talk later. She pushed me. I was bending over, blow drying my hair, and she pushed me into my full-length mirror, and that's all I remember until my foster mother was yelling and screaming my name. And so when I was coming out of this blackout episode, I remember looking at her, and my fist was up in the air. And when I looked at her face and registered her, and our eyes locked, I was absolutely shocked. And when I went to go look down and see who was under me crying, it was this foster sister, and wasn't very happy. I think I really did give her quite the beating. I jumped off her.
She provoked you.
Yeah, my foster mother did say that and did tell my foster dad that, because I thought I was going to be dead once my foster dad heard the story. But she did tell the story from what she heard, and I was the whole time saying, leave me alone, please, give me space, we'll talk later, and very rational, very calm. And then she heard that.
1 minute left.
Yeah, sorry. So she heard me bang into the mirror and knew that it was not like me.
So you're saying that in terms of your type of transformation, there may not be any physiological changes, just an increase in strength and anger.
Yeah.
That might turn you into sort of an animal-like creature, but you're not going to be growing claws or extra facial hair or anything. So
no, not at all.
Might look just about the same.
Yeah.
And so would we? So we don't know if you're a full-fledged werewolf, but some transformation has taken place. So we'll try not to provoke you.
Well, I am female. I don't think any man should be provoking any female.
Of course not. But Benny has a bad habit of doing that.
Yes, I know.
Okay. Well, this is most interesting. Would you call... so your father... you don't know what happened to him or if he's had other episodes, because you only know that one episode with him.
Actually, my aunt has told histories of him even when he was young.
Oh.
He would play games with other siblings and cousins about who could make it around a camp lake. He would make them go the shortest distance, and he would go the longest distance. And they would run around thinking they totally had him beat, and when they would go to camp, he was already in camp.
Okay.
So 15 seconds.
He freaked a lot of people out.
Okay, Vivian, we've got to shut down now. So may I say thank you for being our guest, and to our audience, may the power of the cosmos be with you until next time. Yes, yes, yes.